Your blood sugar crashes an hour after eating rice. Your energy disappears. The inflammation keeps getting worse, and nobody's told you how to stop it. Here's what's really going on. Rice breaks down fast, too fast. Your blood glucose spikes within minutes of eating. Your pancreas floods your body with insulin to handle the surge. When this cycle repeats meal after meal, month after month, your cells stop listening to insulin's signal. That's insulin resistance. That's the beginning of metabolic disease. That's why the belly fat won't budge no matter how hard you try. But rice doesn't have to be the enemy. What if you could eat it and actually support your metabolism instead of destroying it? I'm going to show you 5 research-backed ways to transform rice from a glucose bomb into a food that stabilizes blood sugar, feeds beneficial gut bacteria, and reduces inflammation. The last one is so simple you'll wonder why nobody mentioned it before. Let me show you what happens inside your body when you eat plain rice. Rice is starch, long chains of glucose molecules linked together. When you eat it alone, digestive enzymes slice through those chains rapidly. Glucose floods your bloodstream. Insulin surges. Your body scrambles to push that sugar out of your blood and into cells. One meal like this, your body handles it fine. But meal after meal, day after day, your cells become resistant to insulin. Fat accumulates around your organs. Energy drops. Inflammation rises. You're on the path to type 2 diabetes. Traditional cultures that ate rice for thousands of years didn't have these problems. They knew something we forgot. They knew how to prepare rice and what to eat it with. Let me show you exactly what they did. This sounds unusual, but the research is crystal clear. In a controlled human study published in Plant Foods for Human Nutrition, 26 participants ate 200 grams of rice either alone or with just 4 grams of dried wakame seaweed. When wakame was added, blood glucose and insulin levels were significantly lower 30 minutes after the meal. The overall glucose and insulin response throughout digestion improved dramatically with the seaweed. Why does this work? Wakame contains unique fibers, especially one called alginate. When alginate hits your stomach, it forms a thick, viscous gel. This gel does 4 powerful things for your metabolism. First, it slows stomach emptying, so glucose enters your bloodstream gradually instead of all at once. Second, it creates a physical barrier that slows enzyme access to starch, meaning digestion happens more slowly. Third, it reduces rapid glucose absorption, which means smaller glucose spikes and smaller insulin surges. Fourth, it feeds beneficial bacteria in your gut, which produce short-chain fatty acids that heal intestinal permeability and reduce inflammation. A comprehensive meta-analysis in the journal Nutrients reviewed 23 studies on brown seaweed consumption and found significant improvements in postprandial blood glucose, hemoglobin A1C, and insulin resistance compared to control groups. Research also shows alginate can reduce the glycemic impact of high-starch foods like bread and cereal. How do you use wakame? Buy organic dried wakame flakes. After your rice is cooked, add 1 to 2 teaspoons to the hot rice. Let it sit for 2 minutes. Stir. That's it. You can also create a bowl with rice, wakame, cucumber, sesame seeds, and protein like salmon or eggs. If you've ever eaten miso soup or seaweed salad, you know the taste, a mild, slightly oceanic flavor that blends beautifully into rice. Here's a bonus for your gut health. Seaweed fibers act like prebiotics, feeding beneficial microbes in your gut. This is why gut health experts and metabolic specialists often recommend seaweed. If you want the smallest change for the biggest metabolic impact, add seaweed to your rice. This one is classic, and the research backing it is extensive. Multiple human studies consistently show vinegar reduces post-meal glucose spikes. A systematic review and meta-analysis in diabetes research and clinical practice examined clinical trials and found that vinegar consumption significantly attenuates postprandial glucose and insulin responses. In one study published in the European Journal of Clinical Nutrition, participants consumed white bread with varying levels of vinegar. Results showed a clear dose-response relationship. The more vinegar used, the lower the glucose and insulin response. The highest level of vinegar significantly lowered blood glucose at 30 and 45 minutes and increased feelings of satiety. Another study in the Journal of Diabetes Research found vinegar increased insulin-stimulated glucose uptake in people with type 2 diabetes while reducing postprandial blood glucose, insulin, and triglycerides. Why does vinegar work? Vinegar contains acetic acid, a short-chain fatty acid that slows digestion and reduces post-meal blood sugar spikes. Acetic acid also increases insulin sensitivity, meaning your cells respond better to insulin signal. This helps prevent insulin resistance. How do you add vinegar? After rice is cooked, mix in 1 to 2 teaspoons of rice vinegar or apple cider vinegar with a pinch of sea salt and optionally a squeeze of lemon. You can also make a simple dressing with 1 tablespoon apple cider vinegar, 1 teaspoon high-quality olive oil, and your favorite herbs. Drizzle over your rice bowl with protein and vegetables. Another option is adding fermented foods, pickled cucumbers, kimchi, or sauerkraut to your meal. You get the glucose-lowering effect from acetic acid plus gut-healing probiotics from fermentation. This surprises most people, but it's one of the simplest and most powerful changes you can make. Cook your rice, refrigerate it, let it cool completely, then reheat before eating. This process literally changes the molecular structure of the rice. When hot rice cools, part of its digestible starch undergoes a process called retrogradation. It transforms into resistant starch. Resistant starch resists digestion in the small intestine and doesn't rapidly convert to glucose. Instead, it travels to your colon, where it feeds beneficial gut bacteria and produces butyrate, a critical short-chain fatty acid that heals gut lining and reduces inflammation. A study published in the Asia-Pacific Journal of Clinical Nutrition tested this precisely. Researchers analyzed resistant starch content in freshly cooked white rice, rice cooled for 10 hours at room temperature, and rice cooled for 24 hours at 4 degrees Celsius, then reheated. The results showed resistant starch increased from 0.64 grams per 100 grams in fresh rice to 1.65 grams in rice cooled for 24 hours and reheated. In the clinical study with 15 healthy adults, cooled and reheated rice significantly lowered glycemic response compared to freshly cooked rice. Another study in nutrition and diabetes examined 32 patients with type 1 diabetes who ate rice either freshly cooked or cooled for 24 hours and reheated. The cooled rice produced significantly lower maximum blood glucose levels compared to fresh rice. The problem with most carbohydrates isn't the carbs themselves, it's the speed they hit your bloodstream. When you cool rice, you slow that speed down. Less glucose, less insulin, more fat burning. Here's exactly how to do it. Cook rice normally. I recommend adding a tablespoon of coconut oil, which adds healthy fats. Transfer the rice to the refrigerator, let it cool fully for 12 to 24 hours, then reheat gently. Reheating doesn't undo resistant starch benefits. Combine this with wakame and vinegar, add protein and vegetables. You've created a genuinely fat-burning, gut-healing meal. Carbohydrates behave completely differently in the presence of quality protein and fat. The research on this is clear and consistent. A study published in the European Journal of Nutrition examined the effect of co-ingesting chicken, oil, or vegetables with white rice in 12 healthy adults. The results showed that eating white rice with chicken, oil, or vegetables significantly reduced glucose and insulin responses compared to rice alone. When all three were combined, glucose response was attenuated to an even greater degree without increasing insulin demand. Another study in the British Journal of Nutrition compared rice eaten alone versus rice with different protein sources: soy, chicken, fish, and eggs. Among different proteins, soybean curd significantly reduced glycemic response, followed by chicken, fish, and eggs. A narrative review in Frontiers in Nutrition examined culinary strategies for managing glycemic response in people with type 2 diabetes. The review found that consuming protein, fat, and fiber from vegetables before starchy foods reduces postprandial blood glucose by up to 73% and circulating insulin levels by 48% compared to consuming them together or after. Why does this happen? Protein slows gastric emptying, meaning food leaves your stomach more slowly and glucose enters blood gradually. Protein also triggers incretin hormones like GLP-1, which improve insulin sensitivity and reduce appetite. You're getting GLP-1 benefits naturally without side effects or cost. Fat further slows digestion and helps you absorb fat-soluble vitamins from vegetables. Vegetables provide fiber, vitamins, minerals, and phytonutrients that reduce inflammation and support metabolic health. Here's a practical formula. First, choose high-quality protein: eggs with yolk, organic chicken, wild-caught salmon, sardines, grass-fed beef, or grass-fed lamb. Second, choose non-starchy vegetables: broccoli, cabbage, asparagus, mushrooms, cucumbers, spinach, or bok choy. Third, add 1 to 2 teaspoons of healthy fat: high-quality olive oil, coconut oil, avocado oil, sesame oil, or ghee. Mix it all together. This is how traditional rice-eating cultures always ate rice. They never ate it alone. They paired it with fish, vegetables, seaweed, fermented foods, and healthy fats. That's why they didn't develop the metabolic diseases we see today. This one is powerful, especially if you feel sensitive to carbohydrates. Psyllium husk is a soluble, gel-forming fiber. Research shows psyllium used as a meal supplement can reduce post-meal glucose response even in people with type 2 diabetes. A meta-analysis published in the American Journal of Clinical Nutrition examined 35 randomized controlled clinical studies spanning 3 decades. In patients with type 2 diabetes, multi-week studies where psyllium was dosed before meals showed significant improvement in both fasting blood glucose and hemoglobin A1C. The glycemic benefit was commensurate with a loss of glycemic control. The greatest effect was seen in patients with type 2 diabetes. Another randomized controlled trial published in Nutrition Journal found that type 2 diabetes patients who consumed 10.5 grams of psyllium daily for 8 weeks showed significant improvements. Fasting blood sugar dropped from 163 to 119 milligrams per deciliter. Hemoglobin A1C decreased from 8.5% to 7.5%. Insulin levels fell from 27.9 to 19.7 micro-IU per milliliter. C-peptide levels decreased, and insulin resistance improved dramatically. How does psyllium work? Psyllium forms a gel in your digestive tract. This gel slows carbohydrate absorption, reduces the peak glucose spike from your meal, improves satiety so you feel fuller faster, and supports bowel regularity and gut motility. Here's the best method. Mix 1 teaspoon of high-quality organic psyllium husk powder into water 5 to 10 minutes before eating your rice meal. Drink it, then eat your rice bowl. You can combine psyllium with the other strategies or use it alone and still benefit from glucose-lowering effects. Make sure you're using pure psyllium husk powder, not products loaded with sugar or artificial sweeteners. Drink plenty of water throughout the day when using psyllium to support digestion. Those are 5 strategies backed by human research: wakame seaweed, vinegar, cooling your rice, protein, fat, and vegetables, and psyllium husk. Each independently lowers glucose and insulin response. Combined, the effect multiplies. It's not the carbohydrate, it's your metabolic response. If rice currently spikes your glucose and you're overweight, insulin resistant, or diabetic, avoiding rice might be necessary now. But if you apply these strategies and get better metabolic response, you can enjoy rice occasionally while reducing insulin and improving insulin sensitivity. The goal isn't rigid elimination, it's understanding how to prepare food to support your metabolism. Yes, they can help, but here's something surprising. I'm not a fan of brown rice. Brown rice is more contaminated with heavy metals like arsenic because the bran layer absorbs toxins. It also contains more anti-nutrients like phytic acid, which blocks mineral absorption and causes digestive issues in sensitive people. White rice has minimal anti-nutrients because the bran and germ are removed. I know this contradicts conventional wisdom. Most think brown rice is healthier, but based on research and clinical experience, white rice prepared correctly is healthier for most people. Combined with these strategies, it becomes genuinely supportive for metabolism and gut health. The cultures that thrived on rice for thousands of years prepared it in ways that supported health. We can apply that wisdom with modern science. If this helped, type yes in the comments and share with someone struggling with blood sugar, weight, or gut health. And if your belly fat hasn't moved despite your efforts, it's not your fault. The real problem is visceral fat, insulin resistance, and metabolic syndrome. I've created resources showing exactly how to fix this. Click the link in the description. Thank you for watching. My next video shows you a simple daily liquid that triggers autophagy, lowers inflammation, and helps burn stubborn fat. Don't miss it.